Australia v West Indies, 1992-93. West Indies won 2-1. Warne, 4 tests, 10 wickets at 31.30. Number 5 second test, Melbourne. Just before lunch on the final day at the MCG, with the Windies 1-143, chasing 359, and starting to cruise, I knocked over Richie Richardson with a flipper. It was the first test wicket I captured with the flipper. Because I landed it so well, and got him out, it gave my confidence a real kick. The flipper that started it all was the product of a lot of hard work. For me it had been a work in progress for 3 or 4 years before this day, but I hadn't had the balls to bowl it. It's such a difficult ball to bowl, and I didn't want to send down a double bouncer. The flipper comes from underneath the thumb, with backspin on it so that it actually skids along the pitch. It is a ball that can deceive a batsman, can often think it is a lot shorter than it actually is. Buoyed by the Richardson dismissal, I took 5 of the last 7 wickets, and we won emphatically. My dad came down to the dressing room and had a beer with me afterwards. It was a great feeling at the end of that day, both that we had won the test, and for me, the knowledge that I would be playing the next game, and that I had now proved I could do it. Australia in New Zealand, 1993 series drawn 1-1. Warne, 3 tests, 17 wickets at 15.05. Australia in England, 1993. Australia won 4-1. Warne, 6 tests, 34 wickets at 25.79. Number 12 first test, Manchester. Mike Gatting stands in disbelief after falling victim to Shane Warne's ball of the century in 1993. Pop a photo. It has been called the ball of the century, and of all the leg breaks I sent down over the years, this turned out to be one that changed my life. After the moment Old Trafford, June 4, 1993, things would never be the same for me again. When you start out as a leg spinner, you just want to try and land it somewhere reasonably down the other end. Very rarely do you bowl something like that, the perfect leg break. But on that day, I did, and yes, I still regard it as amazing the subsequent impact it had on England, and I suppose on my life. Many times in my career I turned balls as much as I turned that one, especially so in that match, on that wicket. I guess anyone with a passing interest in cricket would have seen it on TV by now, the ball fizzing back across Gatting and bowling him. He and I spoke about it that night, and to be honest I don't think either of us really knew what happened. We had a bit of a laugh, and it was good we could get some humour out of it. Everything was in place for me that summer. The English players hadn't seen me before, and I felt they weren't picking what I was bowling. I bowled 73 overs and took 8 wickets in the game, and we won by 179 runs. Life couldn't have been better. A bamboozled Mike Gatting trudges off after being dismissed by Warne's ball of the century. Australia v New Zealand, 1993. Australia won 2-0. Warne, 3 tests, 18 wickets at 16.94. Australia v South Africa, 1993-94 series drawn 1-1. Warne, 3 tests, 18 wickets at 17.05. Australia in South Africa, 1994. Series drawn 1-1. Warne, 3 tests, 15 wickets at 22.40. Australia in Pakistan, 1994. Pakistan won 1-0. Warne, 3 tests, 18 wickets at 28.00. Tim May and Shane Warne, during an Australian training session in 1993. Ray Kennedy, number 27 first test, Karachi. It was on the night before the last day's play in this test that Salim Malik tried to offer myself and Tim May $200,000 each to bowl wide of the stumps so that it would be a draw. Basically, we told him to F off. That and the fact that we lost the test in the last breath are the only sour notes in one of the great games in Test history. The winning and losing came with the final ball bowled by me. Inzamam went to hit it through mid-wicket, the delivery kept low and he missed it. But it missed the wicket, and behind the stumps Ian Healy missed it too. 4 byes. They had won the test. Afterwards, Heels was distraught, but it wasn't his fault we lost the match. Australia v England, 1994-95. Australia won 3-1. Warne, 5 tests, 27 wickets at 20.33. Number 31 second test, Melbourne. My first and only test hat-trick was at the MCG. It was David Boone's birthday, and he took the final catch to remove Devon Malcolm. It happened in England's second innings, as we moved in for the what was another dominant test for Australia. The wickets were De Freitas, Gough and Malcolm. This was such an enjoyable occasion, around Christmas time with my family and friends, on my home ground, and now, taking a hat-trick, a pretty rare event in Test cricket. It was a good time. The Boxing Day Test is one of cricket's great experiences. Australia in West Indies, 1995. Australia won 2-1. Warne, 4 tests, 15 wickets at 27.06. Number 38 fourth test, Jamaica. This was a great event for Australian cricket. Victory gave us the series 2-1, and the innings and 53 runs defeat was the West Indies' biggest in a decade. It also brought to an end their unbeaten home record stretching back 22 years. I was happy with my contribution here, at the end of a tough tour. It was a good feeling at the end to take the final wicket of the series, that of Kenneth Benjamin, caught by Mark Taylor. He was the best captain I played under, and here at Kingston, Jamaica, the start of Australia's dominance of world cricket was underway. Australia v Pakistan, 1995-96. Australia won 2-1. Warne, 3 tests, 19 wickets at 10.42. Number 39 first test, Brisbane. On occasions the best time for a spinner to bowl is when there is a bit of moisture around, and the ball will grip and spin. So it was in this Gabba test, the first we had played against Pakistan since they beat us in 1994. Once they saw the quicks off in their first innings, and I came on, they just tried to slog me. They really went after me, because it was more of a seamer's wicket. And I finished with 7-23, my second best test match figures, and that was pretty bloody amazing. It had become public that Tim May, Mark Waugh, and I had all been offered money by Salim Malik to underperform over there against Pakistan. I really wanted to have a crack at him, and I got my chance in the second dig when he batted down the order. Before he had scored, Craig McDermott took a good catch at mid-off off my bowling to get rid of him. A bit of justice and satisfaction there, I figured. For me, it was a test match to remember. 44 overs, 11-77. I was very proud of that. Australia v Sri Lanka, 1995-96. Australia won 3-0. Warne, 3 tests, 12 wickets at 36.08. Shane Warne's hat-trick at the MCG, 1994. David Boone takes a screamer to dismiss Devon Malcolm. Fairfax Media Australia v West Indies, 1996-97. Australia won 3-2. Warne, 5 tests, 22 wickets at 27.00. Number 46, second test, Sydney. In the SCG test I turned a single leg spinner more than any other ball I bowled in my entire career. The match was only the second test I had played in 10 months after surgery on my spinning finger and some rehab work on a troublesome shoulder. Before the game I had a good session with Terry Jenner on the theme of spinning the ball. The memorable moment took place just before lunch. I was throwing the ball and I thought, right, I'm going to grab a wicket here. I was bowling okay, but not great, but then I sent down a leg spinner to left-hander Chanderpaul, which drifted a little in the air. He was seeing them well by then and went back to cut it, and the ball pitched and bit and spun almost at right angles. It smashed down the stumps, and we went on to knock them over for 215 to win the test. Reflecting later on the game, I felt I was back after the period of repair and recovery, which I had needed. That one ball was a big turning point. I knew now I had the confidence to start spinning them again. Shane Warne with Terry Jenner in 2005.